All right, let's talk about a book that has completely changed the game for millions of people when it comes to money. We're diving into the absolute core lessons from Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This is the stuff that can genuinely shift your entire mindset about building wealth. So, let's jump right in.
So the book kicks off with this really powerful question, one that probably hits home for a lot of us. Why is it that we spend, 12, 16, maybe more years in school learning how to work for money, but we spend almost zero time learning how to make money work for us? It's a huge gap, right? And that's exactly the problem Rich Dad, Poor Dad just dives straight into. Now, the whole book is built around this amazing story of two dads. You've got the poor dad, who, by the way, wasn't poor in the traditional sense. He was highly educated and had a good job. He followed that script we all know. Study hard, get a safe job, climb the ladder. And then you've got the rich dad. His lesson was completely different. He said, look, don't just work for your money. You've got to understand how money works so you can make it work for you. It's these two totally different ways of thinking that lead to two completely different lives. And this right here, this is the single most important idea in the entire book. The rich do not work for money. They make money work for them. It's about a complete shift in your goal. It's not about just getting a bigger and bigger paycheck. It's about building systems, little money machines that generate income for you, even when you're not actively working. You know, it's the difference between you having to run on the treadmill versus building a machine that runs all by itself. Okay, so how do you actually do that? How do you make money work for you? Well, it all boils down to one simple golden rule. This is the absolute foundation of everything.
First up, you have to know what an asset is. And Kiyosaki's definition is just genius in its simplicity. An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket. That's it. Think of it as something that pays you to own it. And then, of course, you have the opposite, a liability. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. Super simple, right? But believe it or not, this one little distinction is where so many people get it wrong. And this is where it gets real. We're all taught to believe that our house is our biggest asset, right? Or that fancy car we bought. But let's follow the money. Your car, you're paying for gas, insurance, repairs, loan payments. Money is flowing out of your pocket. That makes it a liability. But what about a rental property? If the rent from your tenant covers the mortgage, taxes, and repairs, and you still have money left over each month, well, now that's putting money in your pocket. That's a real asset.
You see, just understanding that one simple difference, it changes the entire game. It's not just about how much money you make, it's about what you do with it. This is how you actually start building that money machine we were talking about. So here's the strategy, and it's so important. Most of us, what do? We earn income and we immediately go buy stuff. Luxuries, liabilities. We get a raise, we buy a more expensive car. The rich dad strategy flips that completely. You earn your income, but then you buy income-generating assets first. You build up that asset column, and then, and only then, you let the cash flow from your assets pay for the luxuries. It's a total reversal of how most people live.
So what kind of assets are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about things that create passive income, things that make you money while you sleep. This could be a business you own but don't have to run day to day. It could be stocks that pay you dividends, or that rental property we just talked about. It could even be intellectual property like royalties from a book or a song. The goal is always the same: acquire things that pay you.
Okay, but to buy and manage these assets, you need more than just money. You need knowledge. And this leads to another huge mindset shift from the book, working to learn, not just to earn. This one is a real game changer.
Kiyosaki's point is that, especially early on, the most valuable paycheck isn't necessarily the one with the biggest number on it. It's the one that teaches you the most valuable skills. We're talking about things like sales, communication, leadership, and investing. Why? Because these are the skills that allow you to build and manage the systems, the businesses, the investments that will eventually make you wealthy. They're the building blocks.
But you can know all of this stuff. You can understand assets and liabilities. You can have a strategy. But there's still one final barrier that stops most people dead in their tracks. And it has nothing to do with how much money you have. It is 100% a mental game.
What are we talking about? We're talking about fear, self-doubt, and blame. These are the big ones. Fear of losing money keeps people paralyzed, stuck with their cash in a savings account that's getting eaten by inflation. Self-doubt makes you a paralysis by analysis expert. You read everything, you learn everything, but you never actually do anything.
And blaming the economy or your boss, well, that just gives away all your power.
So, the secret is to totally reframe how you think about risk and failure. The poor dad mindset is fear-based. It sees any mistake as a total disaster, something you have to avoid no matter what. But the rich dad mindset, that's a growth-based approach. It understands that mistakes aren't just possible, they're inevitable. They're part of learning. Every loss is a lesson. It's like paying tuition for your real-world financial education.
And that really brings us to the bottom line here. You cannot wait for someone else to make you rich. Not your boss, not the government, nobody. Your financial future, your independence, it begins and ends with you. It starts the second you decide to take total personal responsibility for your financial education and ultimately for your results.
When you really boil it down, Rich Dad, Poor Dad isn't just a book about finance. It's a book about how you think. It teaches you that building real wealth isn't about working harder for a bigger paycheck. It's about becoming smarter with your money. It all comes back to that one single critical shift in your mind. Stop thinking like a consumer and start thinking like an owner.
So I want to leave you with a question. Not something to think about later, but something to consider right now. Now that you know the difference, now that you have the framework, what is the very first income-generating asset you're going to start building? Because honestly, your entire financial future begins with how you answer that question.